Hey there folks, welcome to Spectrum Policy, talking about music, movies, art and culture, and this is Billboard Breakdown. Now this week things seem to be finally getting back to normal, and to be honest, I was expecting the Hot 100 to be a lot worse this week thanks to an injection of new album tracks from reviews that I did last week. Instead it seems like the opposite is true here, as no additional Rae Sremmurd tracks landed on the Hot 100, thank God, and Meghan Trainor had losses pretty much across the board. In fact, for the first week ever on Billboard Breakdown here, we've got no returning songs, just brand new tracks debuting. Granted with more Chris Brown than is healthy for anyone, but hey, we're getting Jhene Aiko, another Fall Out Boy single, and a post-hardcore cover of Taylor Swift, so okay, I'll take that. But before we get to all that craziness, let's start off with our top 10. And with things returning to a more normal state of affairs, there isn't a lot of surprises here. Uptown Funk by Mark Ronson and Bruno Mars easily holds on number 1 for a second straight week, thanks to strong sales, crushing streaming, and steadily gaining airplay. And with the added bonus of his album dropping this week, it looks like that lead is going to stick around for a while. And then we have Blank Space by Taylor Swift, which holds on to her spot at number 2. Although it's going to be interesting to see how long it lasts there, considering it looks to have come close to a peaking in airplay and sales are slowly starting to drop off there. It's enough to make you wonder whether or not Take Me to Church by Hozier might have a long shot at reclaiming its higher slot at number 2. Considering the streams and sales have remained somewhat consistent, it's still slowly gaining airplay here. As of yet, it's still at number 3, but hell, you never know. Although what's more likely is Ed Sheeran taking that slot with Thinking Out Loud, which is at number 4, and had a great week thanks to sales, streams, and even faster airplay growth. Now the big surprise for me comes in at a new number 5. I'm Not the Only One by Sam Smith, which owes his slot to his still growing airplay and a good week on the streams, although it's more likely it's because some of those who were previously above him all took some real body blows. Now the ones that probably fared the best out of that was Lips Are Moving by Meghan Trainor, which dropped only 1 slot to number 6, hanging on mostly thanks to gaining airplay and decent enough sales and streaming. I mean hell, Nick Jonas' Jealous owes the majority of its success to airplay and maybe streaming, certainly not sales, as it climbs up to number 7. And in its long-awaited return, by me at least, Love Me Harder by Ariana Grande featuring The Weeknd returns to the top 10 at number 8, even despite its abysmal sales and seemingly peaking in airplay, with some good streaming and YouTube still giving it some life. Beneath that, however, are songs that are definitely on their way out. Shake It Off by Taylor Swift, which is steadily losing airplay and shrinking in sales to number 9, and All About That Bass dropping even faster in all categories to come in at number 10. Now honestly, most of this is kind of good news for me. The top 10 starting to get a little bit stale for me after all. And the good news keeps on coming with our dropouts, because Trumpets by Jason Derulo, Anaconda by Nicki Minaj, and Lifestyle by Rich Gang featuring Rich Homie Quan and Young Thug, they're all gone from the Hot 100. That's right, 3 of the worst songs of 2014 finally out of here. And if you take a look at our losers this week on the charts, it would seem like the American public decided to get rid of 2014's crap en masse. Neon Light by Blake Shelton drops number 99. Dear Future Husband by Meghan Trainor continues its downward spiral, number 95. Close Your Eyes by Parmalee and Dangerous by David Guetta, they remain forgettable and outdated at 86 and 81 respectively. LA Love by Fergie mercifully takes a hit, going down to number 55. Iggy Azalea's ripoff of herself, Beg For It stumbles down number 44. And finally, Rude by Magic manages to take a tumble down to number 38. Now all these songs suck to varying degrees, and to see them all go off like this is wonderfully cathartic. Now as for the rest of the losers, they can be explained here. Bang Bang by Jessie J, Ariana Grande, and Nicki Minaj dropping number 25, and Steal My Girl by One Direction continuing its plummet down to number 69. That's just the remainders of 2014 getting dropped off. It's explainable, and thanks to neither song having as much replay value as one might expect. And then there's Only One by Kanye West and Paul McCartney dipping down to 54. Well, once again, that's not exactly surprising either. As I said last week, it's a curiosity of a song at best, and without a video, I didn't exactly see it sticking around for long. Looks like I was right. Now, to be fair, it's not like all our gains were stellar here. Cole Swindle's atrocious Ain't Worth the Whiskey and Sam Hunt's pretty awful Take Your Time both gained traction to rise to 89 and 75, mostly because there isn't much to replace it on country radio right now. But going outside of that, the rest, they aren't bad. Stuck on a Feeling by Prince Royce and Snoop Dogg continues its rise to number 63, and I Live by One Republic goes to 34, the latter thanks to huge digital gains. Now, I can tolerate both songs. Hell, Outside by Calvin Harris and Ellie Goulding has actually grown on me a fair bit, and it continues its return to the charts last week by rising up to number 76. But of course, the game that put a big smile on my face was Ghost by Ella Henderson, going up to number 28. Not a perfect song or even the best on her album, and Psycho Records production is not helping her whatsoever, but dear God, she's a superstar in the making, and I sincerely hope this song keeps rising and is as dominant as it was in the UK, because honestly, great track, I really like it. And that's all our gains, and with no returning entries, let's get straight to things with number 100, All About It by Hoodie Allen featuring Ed Sheeran.
I'm all about it, baby. I'm all about it, baby. I'm staying up late just to pass the time, and your pants don't like it when you out getting high, but I'm all about it, baby.
Okay, this is a little bit surreal, and here's why. My buddy John over at Album Review TV interviewed Hoodie Allen last year, and now thanks to a welcome boost from Ed Sheeran, he's broken onto the charts. Now, I have to be honest, I miss covering People Keep Talking last year simply because of my heinous schedule. This is my first real exposure to the guy outside of John's review, and you know, I dig him. Hoodie Allen and Ed Sheeran have some really solid interplay, and the song has this sort of lightweight, chill vibe that it needs, that it doesn't really take itself that seriously. Neither of these guys are trying to go hardcore, and they shouldn't. And while there are some corny lines, that leak shit double rhyme from Ed Sheeran was just, I'm sorry, no. Overall, Hoodie Allen does deliver one of the more interesting comparisons between himself and a combination of Larry David and Miles Davis, which is the sort of lyric that just really hits the sweet spot for me, especially in the heavy air of self-awareness around Hoodie Allen and his fan base. It helps that the production is pretty damn great across the board, thanks to the scratchier beat, the thicker horns and the guitars, and pretty great harmonic interplay. Overall, if these are the sort of artists that Ed Sheeran is trying to pull into the Hot 100, I can't complain. Great song. Number 98, Supposed to Be by Omarion featuring Chris Brown and Jhene Aiko.
I'm getting money like I'm supposed to be. I'm getting money like I'm supposed to be. Oh, all my niggas close to me, and all the mother niggas where they supposed to be. Oh.
Okay, the surprises continue, because until I heard the song, I had no idea Omarion had decided to drop another album, let alone that he did it last December, mostly because I got precisely 0 requests for it. For those of you who don't know who this guy is, Omarion originally came to fame with B2K, one of the few boy bands that managed to survive the late 90s by managing the transition to slightly sleazier R&B. Eventually, Omarion broke away and began releasing solo albums in the vein of Justin Timberlake in the mid-2000s, but timing looked to be against him, because between R&B starting to recede a little bit and Chris Brown stealing all of his market share, it's not surprising that Omarion's career didn't exactly last long. So nearly a decade later, and teaming up with old friend Jhene Aiko and Chris Brown and DJ Mustard for Hope of Airplay, how's the song? Well, honestly, it's lousy. The bass line is formless, the breathless panting replacing gang vocals, it's not flattering, and everyone on the track comes across as total assholes. Jhene Aiko probably fares the best by at least being able to flip the original gender binary when it comes to stealing boyfriends, but when you break down, it's still catty and douchey. Better than Chris Brown bragging about killing it with his penis, but still, it's not a good sentiment. If this is the comeback single Omarion was hoping for, oh man, talk about a misfire. Skip this song. Number 96, Not For Long by B.o.B featuring Trey Songz. Okay, seriously, can someone explain to me the appeal of these songs about stealing other guys' girlfriends? Sure, I can get the melodramatic appeal if you amp up and intensify the atmosphere, but most of these tracks have this exact same style of production as everything else. And what's worse is that we get a track like this coming from B.o.B. He used to be a real favorite rapper of mine, began his career with songs full of genuine, earnest love like Nothing on You, and is now making crap like this with Trey Songz. The sad fact is that for the most part, the rest of the song is on point. Trey Songz seems to have finally developed some restraint in his vocals, the melody is prominent and well balanced against the drums, and B.o.B has recovered a little bit in his technique since the disappointing disaster that was Underground Luxury. But you really can't ignore that in the choruses and the verses, the song is entirely about the presumption that the girl won't be long for these guys' beds, and it's the smugness of the song that just absolutely kills it for me. I will say that B.o.B has been worse, but god damn it, he's been a lot better too. That's a real disappointment. Number 90, Blank Space by I Prevail. So okay, whenever we get a huge single blowing up everywhere, especially in the age of YouTube, you can bet that within hours, dozens of covers will have flooded the internet. All of them hoping to be that moment of breakout success that came to guys like Justin Bieber. And I'll be blunt, the majority of these covers really suck, and even more of them have no staying power, going viral for a quick moment, if that, before petering out. What's telling is that most of these short viral hits, they're pretty bare bones, mostly a person with a piano or acoustic guitar, not so much of a full band performing the song. That changed when post-hardcore punk group Prevail chose to cover Taylor Swift's Blank Space, and, well, it's interesting, maybe one of the first times a post-hardcore song has broken onto the Hot 100 in months, if not years. And Prevail, they don't do a bad job with the song, taking the already well-written lyrics and morally ambiguous framing and using a minor key in most of the keyboards and the pianos to get a fair bit darker. And while I do prefer this brand of instrumentation to much of the underweight 80s synth pop that Taylor used, the vocals on the second verse is where things almost approach self-parody. I'm sorry, just got silly there. As it is, I can't see this cover being anything more than a brief novelty on the charts that landed on the Hot 100 thanks to YouTube and YouTube alone. But hey, if it helps open the long sealed floodgates on heavier music and rock for the Hot 100, that can only be a good thing. I'll take it. Number 87, Best Friends by Sophia Grace. Well, that's a transition for you. For those of you who don't know, Sophia Grace originally came into prominence thanks to a cover of Nicki Minaj's Super Bass that she performed on Ellen. And now, just over 3 years later, at the age of 11, she's got a pop song of her own. And look, if it wasn't for the internet, this girl would never been able to clock a hit, because Best Friends, it's not the sort of song that really belongs on the pop charts. For one, despite a lot of energy, Sophia Grace can't help the fact that she sounds 11. And normally that means I would throw her in the Kids Bop category, but that wasn't pairing her with the thick low synth and the snap percussion, the gang vocals, and she's trying to sound hard. And I can't believe I'm gonna say this, but her flow's not bad. I'm serious, give her 5 or 6 years of practice and seasoning after school, and she could potentially become something behind the microphone. I'm being serious here. Now, sure, there's way too much messy auto-tune on everything now to make the song remotely salvageable, but at least her more innocent subject matter matches her delivery, which is kinda cute. So yeah, in the end, yeah, Best Friends is not a good song, but I can't hate it because it's the sort of viral novelty that doesn't belong in the Hot 100 as it is. And besides, she's 11. Considering how I sounded at that age, I'm gonna cut her a little bit of slack. Number 77, Irresistible by Fall Out Boy. So to answer all of your frequent requests, yes, I'll be covering Fall Out Boy's newest record, American Beauty, American Psycho. It's on my schedule, which is getting more and more crowded every single day. As of yet, I haven't listened through it, but I will say that I wasn't exactly a huge fan of Centuries, mostly because it was so strikingly reminiscent of Miss Jackson by Panic! At the Disco, another song that really doesn't impress me and hasn't really lived up well. That said, what about Irresistible? Well, just like Centuries, the production is still overstuffed and way too percussion heavy, but it's definitely better, most thanks to that prominent horn melody, which I did like. But strangely, for as busy as the mix is, it doesn't feel like we're getting a lot of a sense of depth that would come with a good chugging guitar riff or a heavier bass line, which means the song never builds to a substantial groove for me. And lyrically, well, the first verse is sharp as hell, I'm gonna give them that, but they're just nitpicks that I can make with the songwriting in the second and third verse and some of the double rhymes and the stuttered syllables with just to fill up space. I really don't like that. And look, I don't dislike Irresistible, and it gives me more to look forward to with the new album, but there's something missing here, and I can't quite put my finger on it. Granted, it took a while for Save Rock and Roll to really grow on me as it is, so maybe I should just give it a little bit more time when I listen to the album. As it is, I'll take it. Number 45, Love Me Like You Do by Ellie Goulding.
Love me like you do, la la, love me like you do. Touch me like you do, touch me like you do. What are you waiting for?
So okay, if you're gonna mention an artist contributing to the 50 Shades of Grey soundtrack, chances are one of the artists you would not mention would be Ellie Goulding. Mostly because the majority of her appeal, ethereal, borderline manic pixie dream girl, except a fair bit less manic, not exactly a sex goddess in the vein of Shakira, doesn't fit anywhere into the softcore secretary ripoff that doesn't understand that it's porn that this movie appears to be. As such, Love Me Like You Do doesn't work at all in that vein, but for entirely different reasons. For one, whoever's idea to crank up the drums as high as they possibly could in order to replace the melody, I'm sorry, major problem there. And when the second chorus kicks in with that full backing chorus, it sounds less like a sex jam and more like a hyperbolic anthem, which could work. There needs to be the place for those moments of euphoria if the songwriting wasn't kinda lousy. All across the chorus, stuttered syllables to fill up space. I'm sorry, that's just sloppy and lazy songwriting, and I know that Ellie Goulding is capable of a lot better. Still, this was trying to pair Ellie Goulding with 50 Shades of Grey. The fact that we got anything listenable at all, that's the surprising part. Number 40, Ayo by Chris Brown and Tyga. I'ma take her ass down, she bring her friend around, fuck 'em both like I'm a bougie ass nigga, like the roof at home. We vibing like but don't be acting like I need you. Oh God. Don't tell me that Chris Brown and Tyga are gonna be remaking Ayo Technology by 50 Cent and Justin Timberlake. That song might not have been all that good, but it's been less than a decade. Okay, let me reassure you, Chris Brown and Tyga didn't do that, because this song is so much worse. Oh dear God, it's bad. So who remembers Tyga, who's on Young Money, had Rack City back in 2012, and hasn't been relevant at all since then? Did you know that he's dropping an album later this month? Better question, did you care? Because one listen through Ayo was an easy dissuasion for me to avoid checking it out at all costs, because this song blows. Not content with a pretty basic low-rent DJ Mustard ripoff with his plinking synth melody, which to be fair is not terrible, Tyga continues to spew the same bargain basement luxury rap that he's been using for years now, with lyrics comparing himself to Richie Rich, and then wishing that he could be himself when staring at the mirror. Okay, I've read A Man for All Seasons, he clearly hasn't, and Richard Rich was a perjuring piece of shit who betrayed Sir Thomas More. So nice work, Tyga, comparing yourself to him. I can't believe it, I actually think Chris Brown's verse might be better with the one kind of clever line, if I motorboat, she gonna motorbike. It's not bad, I've heard worse. But then Tyga comes back to make things so much worse, to brag about his car smelling like ammonia, ew, and then saying he's tatted up like Mexicans. I'm like, what? And of course the song is all about taking some other guy's girlfriend. Look, I don't have much hope for what's on the top 100 for a new year. If you've seen enough of this show, you see how much crap comes and goes. It's a passage of time here. Could we please consign these guys to the trash heap already? Because the only way they differentiate these songs is by getting more insulting with every single track. Gross. And finally, number 17, Elastic Heart by Sia. Finally, the big follow-up single from Sia after Chandelier, and riding a wave of controversy thanks to a video featuring the one and only Shia LaBeouf, who seems to have spent the past year completely losing his mind. And at this point, I think it's gone past the point of performance art. But musing about Shia LaBeouf aside, Elastic Heart was one of the few songs that I actually liked from Sia's 1000 Forms of Fear. The choppy sample, the tighter groove of the production, Sia's more aggressive delivery, the slightly more prominent melody, and some of the better lyrics illustrating the frustration and anger trying to force love to work in a situation where it might just not. Hell, catch me at the right time, I'd say this song probably works better than Chandelier. Okay, fine. You all want me to talk about the video and the controversy over the supposedly pedophilic undertones. Okay, for me, the video is a prime example of a potent idea that was mishandled in the execution. Now, it's obvious that Maddie Ziegler was a Sia stand-in, and if it was Sia and Shia LaBeouf in the cage, it'd probably be a more accurate representation of the themes discussed within the song. And I'd even argue that Ziegler, she worked in the Chandelier video, because the unhinged dancing from someone so young only emphasized the innocence in her mind crumbling around her. But put her in a video with a plainly adult male, well, okay, put aside the controversy, it also doesn't work as well thematically in the song. The age difference suggests a relationship not of equals. Now, while the song implies that might be in the case between the lines in the chorus, it doesn't fit here, overemphasizing that male presence. It almost seems like Ziegler was recasted because she was recognizable from being in Chandelier, instead of properly being a good fill-in, which just doesn't help matters. As it is, it's hard not to see that unfortunate subtext, so yeah, unfortunately some of that controversy does have warrant. So okay, That was our new chart arrivals, and wow, some of those did not choose to be all that great of a week. For best, okay, Hoodie Owl and Ed Sheeran's All About It easily snags the top, with probably Fall Out Boy's Irresistible slipping in for that honorable mention. And yet for the worst, oh Jesus, there's some duds here. And yet Chris Brown manages to snag both the worst and dishonorable mention for his collaboration with Tyga for Ayo, and Post to Be with Omarion and Jhene Aiko respectively. Oh god, let's pray for better next week. 2015 is starting to heat up a bit, folks, but until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown on Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.